Markus Stenz, the most recently composed piece in this week's concert is Detlef Glanert's Frenesia. And he's a composer who is known to respect the tradition and is inspired by it. Why did you choose Frenesia as part of this week's concert?
I really love the energy of that particular piece. In putting together the three pieces for this program, I always knew we had three different styles. We had the rhetorical style of Haydn, and with the Brahms double concerto, the romantic German music, and almost an inevitable next step could be Glanert as the living composer, as contemporary music. He is very much in the tradition of Richard Strauss and the German symphonic writing. But his treatment of the orchestra is so, nowadays, all the possibilities, and you will see and hear how the players on stage have to really commit to an incredible frenzy and an incredible energy on stage, just like the kind of frenzy and energy you would need in a good Haydn performance. So I think it all adds up very nicely.
How in general do you think, when you put up concert programs for your own orchestras, the Netherlands Radio Symphony Orchestra, or you are a principal guest in the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, what inspires you, or how do you put together either programs for a singular concert or for the whole concert season?
Okay. Now, with my orchestra, the Dutch Radio Orchestra, Radio Philharmonic, we have a task, like many radio orchestras have, to go where nobody else goes, and to go, and final frontier, to play world premieres, to play extravagant stuff, to play repertoire that's just so large scale that no other organization could tackle it. So the bulk of the output of the Radio Philharmonic in Hilversum, with the concerts in Amsterdam and Utrecht, is extraordinary stuff. Very often living composers, or sometimes in combination with points of reference of the past. That is almost a different task to start off from an orchestra like the Helsinki Philharmonic Orchestra with its great tradition. There, of course, you want to put together a season with all the variety of everything that classical music can do. And I really like programs with different flavors, programs that showcase the possibilities of classical music. And that's why I'm so happy with this particular program. We go through different centuries, we go through different styles, but it all can be done by the one orchestra. It's amazing how nowadays we have access to not only music from different centuries, but also to playing styles from different centuries. And I think that is part of the fascination that the audience will go through in our concerts.
Yes, and the chief conductor of the Helsinki Philharmonic, Susanna Mälkki, is very keen on making programs with a dialogue between the past and the present, maybe also the future, and that by listening to something new, you can hear and look at old stuff with fresh eyes and ears. And that's maybe also in this concert
well,
the case.
Undoubtedly so. Yeah. And it's amazing, look at Haydn's time. They were only performing contemporary music. And even at Brahms's time, most of the time, the concert programs were the up-to-date music. They only played contemporary music. Only is maybe an exaggeration, but I think you get my point. It's now where we have this canon of music, where we say, okay, let's put together a nice piece from 200 years ago and a nice piece from roughly 100 years ago, and it's the possibilities of our times.
When you play or rehearse or have a concert with an orchestra that is new to you, is there room for adjusting your interpretation of a
Oh,
piece
yes.
according to their specific
Oh, yes.
qualities.
I would be missing an opportunity if I were not to pick up on the sound that is actually there. It's one of the joys of my profession is to go and experience different personalities. And in an ideal world for me, an orchestra does play with an incredible amount of personality. So on top of what we all think a particular piece should sound like, or a particular interpretation or reading of a piece should sound like, there are those musicians, the stars of the orchestra, and with all their personality and all their commitment. And I don't know, I'm always curious to I'm with the Haydn Symphony. I know I've done it with various other orchestras, but just coming out of the rehearsal now, I know that these performances here will also showcase not only Haydn but the personality of this orchestra.
So that you come, of course, with some sort of idea of what you want to do with a piece, but then you can you be surprised at some point, like, okay, this ended up like totally different.
You see, things like small tempo modifications, rubati, they are highly individual. And in the Haydn, for example, there is a wonderful duet, flute oboe, where I basically just can hand it to the players. They look, do something, create, shape, make it your moment. And then they make their moment, and we all listen, and then we fade into the next phase of the performance. I come with a very clear idea. I come with if you want, in a movie that's ready. But then I meet the real actors, and they set the scene.
Yeah, you are like, it reminds me of some theatre directors who say that they don't want to be in the way of the actors.
Yeah.
As a director, but create them a safe space.
It really is a give and take. It really is a give and take, and that is for example, where the three pieces in our program have three different approaches. With the Haydn, we are talking about the rhetorical style, so it has to do with gestures, and the gestures that the music does, and the gestures that the orchestra can create, and that means, in many cases, an extension of the print. The bare forte piano indications you find in the score are only the starting point. And on top of that, the music has direction, it has flow, it has energy, it has strong bars, weak bars, phrasing, falling lines, rising lines, colors, and all that, And that has to be created in our rehearsals, but also spontaneously. Give an example. Movement 3 of the Haydn Symphony, the Menuet. We play 2 concerts, so that music will be heard, Menuet, Trio Menuet, many times in the concerts, and the repeats. So I told the orchestra we will improvise some of the timing, and it will be different from the one night to the next night, just because it wants to spring to life. That's the approach to Haydn. The approach to Brahms, of course, is very much an interplay between the 2 major musicians, the featured soloists in the double concerto, and their relation, their interplay with the orchestra. That's, once again, it's a different approach. And Glarnet, which is probably the most unknown piece in the repertoire for the orchestra this week, requires a diligent observation of what the composer, who is alive, gives us in terms of information. But there our task again is to play this piece as energetic and frantic as possible.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing all that in action, and enjoy your time in Helsinki.
I will.
Thank you for this interview.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.